Good morning. We are going to talk about inequalities today. We have four different types of inequalities, right? We have greater than, we have less than, we have greater than or equal to, and we have less than or equal to. Okay, so when it comes to graphing, there's a couple of things you have to look at. You have to look at your line. Is it going to be dashed or solid? Okay. You also have to look at shading. Okay, so you're going to do some shading on the graph based on what your inequality is. And you're either going to shade above, I can't write, so give me a second, above or below. Okay? So when you're looking at greater than or less than, because the equal to is not included, that means what's on the line is not included. So these are going to be a dashed line every time. So this is dashed and this is dashed. Excuse me. With your greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, those are equal to, which means they do include what's on the line. So that is going to be a solid line every time. Okay? Solid line when you have an equal to, dashed when you do not. Now, if you look at these two inequalities, this is greater than or equal to. So they have the greater than in common, right? So on shading, you will shade these two above every time. Above for greater than and above for greater than or equal to. Okay? So for less than and less than or equal to, you are going to shade below every time. So you have below for less than or equal to and below for less than. Okay, so that's kind of the stuff that hopefully you remember, but if not, there's a quick review on it. Now, what we've been doing for a long time is solving equations for y. Okay, so now we're going to solve inequalities for y. The same process as in equations. There's just a couple of things that you have to watch out for. So this inequality is in standard form, right? Standard form. And we want it to be in what we call y equals, which is really slope-intercept, right, to get y by itself. So what do we have to do to get y by itself when it's in standard form? We need to move x. So 6x is positive, so we're going to subtract it on both sides. So it cancels here, and I'm left with 3y. Don't forget to bring your sign down. Lots of people want to put an equal sign there, but this sign comes with it the whole time. And then remember, we put our x term first with the sign, so negative 6x, and then 12 is positive, so plus 12. Now to get, this is not a negative, by the way, that's just a mess up. Now to get y by itself, we have to divide by 3. Remember, whatever we do on one side, we do to the other. So the tricky part about inequalities, this is the only difference right here, is if you divide by a negative number, the number that you're taking your cross and dividing by, if it's negative, you have to flip your inequality sign. For this one, 3 is not negative, so we don't have to worry about that, but you should always double check. So your sign stays the same. I want you to draw these arrows so you don't forget and put an equal sign, okay? So y is greater than, and now we do I heart algebra. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Don't forget your x. And then 12 divided by 3 is positive 4. Okay? So graphing an inequality at first is the same as graphing an equation. We have to use two values. That's our slope and our y-intercept. Our slope right here is negative 2, and our y-intercept here is 4. So we put those on the line. We start at our y-intercept of 4, and we're going to go down 2 and right 1. Down 2 and right 1. Now, forgive me when I am doing this video. It's really hard to use a ruler, so if my line's not straight, then just forgive me. So now we have to look at what kind of line. So the sign is greater than, so I look right over here at greater than, and what kind of line do I need to have for that? a dashed line, right? So I started the line and I shouldn't have until I looked at that. So it's going to be a dashed line, okay, like this-ish. Hopefully yours is better than mine, okay? So you have a dashed line because it is not equal to. When it is not equal to, it is not solid. So the next thing we look at is the shading. Where will it be shaded? Okay, so y is greater than all of this. So go to your y-intercept of 4, and where are your y values greater than that? Is it above or below? Y values are greater above, not to mention we have a greater than and our little clue right here that says it'll always be above. So when you shade above, I just want you to do some little lines. I don't want you to make a mess of it because we want to be able to see the points in the shaded area. Okay, so we shade above. So why do we do that? Why do we have a specific kind of line and shading? Because inequalities do not just have one or two solutions. They have lots of solutions, okay? So the solutions for this particular graph, okay, are only in the shaded area, okay? Now, if it was a solid line, we could say the solutions to this are on the line and in the shaded area, okay? Excuse me. So let's look at this second example right here. Oops, I went down too far, sorry. All right, so what kind of equation or inequality in this case, what form is this inequality in? Do we recognize that? It looks a little weird, okay? This is in point slope form, point slope. So why does it look weird? Maybe because there's not a number right here for slope, but there is a number. It's understood to be -1. So I could graph it from here if I wanted to, but the point they've given me is 18 and 9. That's a really high point on the graph, right? And these graphs don't go to those values. So I am going to put it in slope intercept by distributing and then moving my 9 across. So I'm going to distribute the -1 here and here. So bring down your y plus 9 is less than, -1 times x is just -x, and -1 times -18 is +18, okay? Now I have to subtract 9 from both sides, and I have y is less than -x, that comes straight down, and 18 minus 9 is +9. So the values from my new equation are my slope is -1, my y-intercept is +9. So I need to graph my inequality using those values first. So I'm going to start where b, or my y-intercept, is 9, and then my slope is -1. So I'm going to go down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. You can do as many points as you want. Now, is it going to be a dashed or a solid line? So let's talk about that first. Is my line going to be dashed or solid? Well, if it's less than and you do not have a line, no line underneath means no solid line, right? So less than is dashed. So this is going to be a dashed line. Some people say dotted, however you want to do it. So let me turn my paper here and draw the best straight line I can. It's not very good. I'm sorry. So there's my somewhat curvy, crooked line. Sorry. And the next thing I ask is, how do I shade? How do I shade this graph? Well, it says y is less than all of that. So my y value is 9. Where are my y values less than that? Below it, right? So it's all under here. So any point in this shaded area or this shaded area on the first one, any point, x comma y, could be plugged into this equation or the original, and it would make that inequality true, okay? So I shade below, and because my line is not solid, my solutions are only in the shaded area again, just like the first one. Okay? So what I would like for you to do is try these next two. Okay? I want you to spend about, we'll say 5 or 6 minutes on each. So I will ask that the second video start in about 10 minutes. And then I will go through it rather quickly and you can check to see if you've done it correctly.